Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark. We're in Judges. We're going to be starting chapter 21 this lesson. But before we begin, Jeremiah 15:16, Thy words were found, and I did eat them, and thy word was unto me the joy and the rejoicing of my heart. Now, as we begin here in chapter 21, we can't help but notice that the children of Israel revert right back to their old ways of trusting in their wisdom to solve their problems. In this chapter, there is no record that they humble themselves before God or confess their sins or even ask God for help and for wisdom. It is not mentioned that God even gave them any counsel. And it is also not mentioned that the 600 Benjaminites ever repented of their sin to God. We don't see that they went to Shiloh to seek God. So here we have the children of Israel, and they're getting, they've got this problem. They got 600 Benjaminites in these caves. Well, I don't think they're in the caves yet. You'll see here in a little bit. But they've got 600 Benjaminites, and they promised that, they made an oath that they're not going to give their daughters to them. So they got to find daughters for them. They got a problem. And let's see how they wiggle out of this problem. But again, they revert back to human wisdom. Not once do we see where the children of Israel went to Shiloh and said, Father, we've got this problem. How do we handle it? We don't see them asking God, and we don't see Phinehas saying, thus saith the Lord. This is how you should deal with wives for Benjamin. None of that. And the 600 Benjaminites, we don't see them even going to Shiloh and confessing their sin of defending the sin that was in the borders of their land. Now, what we do see in this chapter is the children of Israel depending upon their own wisdom to try to fix this problem. And the result of them using their own wisdom on how to fix it is that there's going to be more deaths. Now, let's read verse 1. And it says here, Now the men of Israel had sworn in Mizpah, saying, There shall not any of us give his daughter unto Benjamin to wife. Now, when the children of Israel first arrived in Mizpah, and they heard the first-hand account from the Levite of what happened, they all made an oath. We are not going to give our daughters unto these men, not only unto these men in Gibeah, but also to any man that decides that they are going to defend the sin that's taking place in Gibeah. So they're not giving any of their daughters at all. Now, let's read verses 2 through 4. And it says, And the people came to the house of God, and they abode there until the evening before God. And they lifted up their voices, and they wept sore. And they said, O Lord God of Israel, why is this come to pass in Israel that there should be today one tribe lacking in Israel? And it came to pass on the morrow that the people rose up early and built there an altar and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. Now, the children of Israel know that it was God's original plan that there be 12 tribes, not 11 tribes. Their hearts are broken on behalf of their brother Benjamin. But their prayer to God on how to solve this problem doesn't seem to have been answered by God. And they seem to come up with their own idea. Again, I can't believe that God would that God would have given these instructions to the children of Israel on how to get wives for these men. But anyways, in verse 4, they build another altar along with the altar that is already there. Probably, and the reason why they do it is because they're going to be offering a lot of sacrifices and they need another altar. Now, in the Old Testament, in the law of Moses, the God said that the altar should be in a certain place, but God never said how many altars could be there. So is what they're doing wrong? Probably not. But the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle of Moses was in Shiloh. And that was the place where they were to go. That was God's choice at that time. So they go there. So again, the place where the altar was to be, that was under God's instruction. But how many altars there could be? Well, God never said you can't have 2 or 3. There can only be 1. No, God never said that. So they build another altar along with the one that's already there. And they start sacrificing on this altar that they build also. Now, verses 5 through 9, and it says, and the children of Israel said, who is there among all the tribes of Israel that came not up to the congregation unto the Lord? For they had made a great oath concerning him that came not up to the Lord to Mizpah, saying, he shall surely be put to death. And the children of Israel repented them for Benjamin their brother, and they said, there is one tribe cut off from Israel this day. How shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing that we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them our daughters to wives? And they said, what one is there of the tribes of Israel that came not up to Mizpah to the Lord? And behold, there came none to the camp of Jabesh-gilead to the assembly. For the people were numbered. Behold, there were none of the inhabitants of Jabesh-gilead there. So now this portion of scripture reminds us of Paul's decree in 1 Samuel chapter 11, verses 1 through 7, except that in Judges 21, the people would be killed, whereas in 1 Samuel chapter 11, King Saul kills an ox. Basically, he sends it out to the different tribes of Israel and says, look, if you don't come to this battle, then we are going to kill your oxen just like this oxen is killed. So, of course, they came. But what's interesting, what's even more interesting is that the very city that the children of Israel are getting ready to kill and to wipe out, years later, that city will be defended by King Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 11, verses 1 through 7, Jabesh-gilead. So here, the children of Israel are going to go to Jabesh-gilead and kill all of them except the virgins that are there. And then years later, the city will be re-inhabited again. And then Saul will defend that. We'll get to that in a minute. So at some time in the past, the children of Israel, they made an oath to kill any city or town or village that did not send a representative to the battle at Mizpah. Now, again, we don't read where they made this oath. And more than likely, my guess is God never sanctioned this oath that they made. Were the people of Jabesh-gilead properly warned? If so, then their destruction basically is their own fault. It would seem improbable that they didn't know seeing that all the other cities and towns and villages did know about the battle and they were warned. Jabesh-gilead is located on the east side of the Jordan River. It's located in the half tribe of Manasseh's portion, and it's about 5 miles east of the Jordan River. Now, one commentator said, and I guess it's possible, but there's no proof to it, said that the reason why Jabesh-gilead didn't send a representative to the battle is because maybe they were, in a sense, in agreement with the children of Benjamin. Maybe they thought that it was, what Benjamin was doing by defending their own people was right. Defending the sin in their land was right to do. Again, we don't know. But anyways, and I kind of think that if it was that way, I think God would have told us that in his word. But no, they don't send a representative, and now the children of Israel are going to go there to that city and basically wipe everybody out. They're going to kill everybody except 200 virgins 400 virgins that are there. Now, King Saul comes to the defense of this city, Jabesh-gilead, and years later, again, we saw that, we see that in 1 Samuel 11, verses 1 through 7. You can read that. Years later, when King Saul is killed by the Philistines, and his son Jonathan and his army is killed, the Philistines take King Saul's body and Jonathan's body, and they take it to a city called Bethshan. And they nail the bodies, headless bodies, to the wall, into a wall in Bethshan. And it was the people of Jabesh-gilead who wanted, because Saul defended them and because Saul stood up for them years ago, now they come to his help, and they sneak into Philistine area where Bethshan is, and they take his body and Jonathan's body, and they bring it back to Jabesh-gilead, and they burn the bodies there. They will not allow the Philistines to gloat and to mock God and mock Saul and the Israelite kingdom. They're gonna give Saul and Jonathan some respect. Now, you may say, well, they burned the bodies. Yeah, probably the reason why they burned the bodies was because the bodies had been nailed to this wall at Bethshan probably for several days, and now they're stinking and they're rotting. So they bring them back to Jabesh-gilead, and they burn them there, mainly, I would say, out of health reasons and contamination reasons. They burn the bodies. Now, so Jabesh-gilead, they're going to be wiped out now, but the city of Jabesh-gilead is going to be re-inhabited again, and it will bring honor. They will bring honor to the nation of Israel when they save Saul and his son. And David also shows respect unto the people of Jabesh-gilead. Now, again, it is not said that God directed the children of Israel to make this oath about killing any city that didn't send a representative. God never said that, and I don't think God would have said that. A whole city of men and women and children will be killed because of an oath that probably was not given by God. And I would almost bet anything on it that God never sanctioned this oath that they made. You know, Christians need to be careful not to make statements or not to make oaths such as this. This is one of them. If you don't support our efforts, right? You ever hear that in the church? If you don't support our efforts. Or here's another one. We need everyone to participate. We need everyone to participate in this effort of whatever, putting a roof on the church or building a Sunday school, whatever. Here's another one. The whole Bible study needs to be involved in this, right? The whole Bible study. And before you start telling other people that they need to do something, make sure that God is directing it. Make sure God's directing it. Right here, chapter 21, we're seeing the children of Israel, they made an oath. And they're telling people, you need to do this, you need to do that, otherwise you're going to get killed. God never said that. They never went to Shiloh and said, hey, God, what should we do? I don't think God would have said that. Anyways, listen, there are always people out there like that would like to tell you, other people, what they need to do. There's always people in the church that want to tell other people what they can do and what they can't do. Be careful and get your orders from God and from His Word. Don't allow people to be. Don't allow. Look, if God's moving you to start a Bible study or to start some ministry, don't go around telling people you got to do this, or if you're a sanctified Christian, if you're humble before God, then you'll get involved in my ministry, right? No, no. You pray. You pray and let God lead people to that ministry, or let God lead people to whatever you're beginning, whatever you're starting to do, whatever program you want to do or start up. Let God bring the people. You don't browbeat people. You don't look at people and make conditions upon their lives and saying, if you really were a strong Christian, you'd be involved in my ministry and this work. No. That's not God's way of doing things. Verses 10 through 12, and it says here, and the congregation sent there 12,000 men of the valiantest, and they commanded them, saying, go and kill the inhabitants of Jabesh-gilead with the sword. With the edge of the sword, with the men, with the women and children. And this is the thing that you shall do. You shall utterly destroy every male and every woman that has lain by man. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh-gilead 400 young virgins that had known no man by laying with any male. And they brought them unto the camp to Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. Now, Jabesh-gilead is now attacked for not showing up to the battle. And only 400 virgins are left from that whole city. Listen, I want to say it again, that the sins of Gibeah, these sins did need to be dealt with. But it should have been dealt with after much prayer and after much fasting at Shiloh to get God's heart, to get God's way of how to execute judgment. And this wasn't done. When the children of Israel came to Mizpah, they were all worked up. They saw the dead body of this woman spread out throughout the nation of Israel, and they got all fired up. And they're at they're at Mizpah, and that we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to uphold the law of God. We're going to, exact judgment on these people of Gibeah for the sins that they commit. And the problem is that when usually the first reaction is the reaction of the flesh. When people get all worked up, they start making rash decisions. And this decision of not giving their daughters to these Benjaminites, that was a rash decision. And this decision of killing everyone in Jabesh-gilead, a rash decision. If you don't come to the battle, if you don't support us in our work, we're going to kill you. Yeah, does that sound like the heart of God? See, they never went to Shiloh. They should, instead of going to Mizpah, they should have gone down to Shiloh first and spent time there in prayer and fasting unto God. They did it, but they did it after. They did it after. After two defeats, they went to Shiloh, and then they cried out to God, and then they burnt offerings and peace offerings unto God. Yeah, it was after two defeats. But they should have gone there first before they even stepped foot at Mizpah and got God's heart on how to deal with the people of Gibeah. It would have been a whole, I believe it would have been a whole different outcome. The children of Israel got all worked up when they saw the piece of this woman's body, and they rashly made a decision to execute God's law on Gibeah. And they were so worked up that they made demands upon people before they humbled themselves to God and to wait upon God to get his way of handling these men of Gibeah. Would God's way to deal with Gibeah have been the same as the children of Israel's way was? My guess is maybe, but I think that God would have done things completely differently. Why? You know why? Because God's ways are not our ways. God's thoughts are not our thoughts. It's a shame, but I think personally that all the people of Jabesh-gilead died unnecessarily. This is what happens when there is no king in the land. People's hearts are turning away from God. You know what happens when there's no king in the land? You know what happens when people's hearts turn away from God and from the Bible? Confusion. Confusion. That's what happens. Confusion takes place. We're going to start in verse 13 next lesson, but until then, walk with the Lord. I know he walks with you.